What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats for every one of the guns in Black Ops 6. And in today's episode, we're changing it up a little bit here. I'm just gonna cover all of the current sniper rifles at once. Now, the main reason behind this is I have taken way too long just to get through the base guns in the game. I realize that these take a lot of work to put together, and also as new things come up, that obviously takes priority, and it has pushed everything back. So in an effort to get at least the base guns wrapped up, I decided to do a very detailed comparison of all of the sniper rifles. We're still diving very deep into the stats. And then toward the end, I'm still going to be sharing some excellent attachment combinations, some of which are actually universal for all of the sniper rifles, and others are unique to a specific rifle. And without further ado, let's dive right into this with our one-hit kill zones. And we're going to go through rifle by rifle for this particular section so we can see enough detail with this. And just to keep things flowing, I'm just going to talk about the maximum damage range, but I will show all of the other ranges as well so you can see that for yourself. And with the Frostline, our maximum damage range is 63.5 meters, which is not bad. On the 6v6 maps, it's pretty hard to find a practical line of sight beyond that. And it's going to be a one-hit kill anywhere from the torso and up, including the arms, so basically anywhere but the legs. Then if we put the CHF barrel on that, that will extend to the upper legs as well, so it'll be a one-shot kill anywhere from the knee up. After that, we have the SVD, which has the exact same one-shot kill zones, at least by default. However, our damage range is the worst in the sniper rifle category at just 50.8 meters. And again, most of your gunfights will still fall within this, but if you are trying to stretch out for those longer range engagements, as you often will with a sniper rifle, you will sometimes find yourself beyond that range. And once again, with the CHF barrel, this will increase that one-hit kill zone to include the upper legs as well. Next, with the LR762, we do have a better default one-hit kill zone. This one without the CHF barrel will be from the knee and up, and our range is also very impressive at 76.2 meters. Whereas with the CHF barrel, in that maximum damage range, it'll now be a one-hit kill anywhere in the body as long as you're not shooting through something. And then finally, we have the AMR Mod 4, which has the best damage range out of all of these sniper rifles at 88.9 meters. Now you might notice I don't have the values for the minimum damage range, and the reason behind that is I literally can't find a range beyond 127 meters to test with in multiplayer. So I assume it's similar to the LR762, but I don't know for sure on that. And once again, with the CHF barrel, it will be a one-shot kill anywhere in the body within that maximum damage range. So there we go, those are the individual damage ranges, but just for a little more context here, this is what it looks like on one of my range charts. And this is mainly just to show that you would be very hard-pressed to get beyond the maximum damage range for every one of these sniper rifles, aside from the SVD. If you're really pushing it, you can definitely do that with the SVD, whereas with the other ones, on most maps, it's literally impossible to get a line of sight beyond their maximum damage range, or at least a practical one where you would actually see an enemy player. And this is why, for the most part, we're just focusing on that maximum damage range. As for the next important stat to look at, let's have a look at rate of fire. And as we can see here, the SVD is by far the best here at 120 rounds per minute, followed by the AMR Mod 4. Then we have the bolt actions. The Frostline is 45 rounds per minute. And then finally, the LR762 is the slowest at just 39 rounds per minute. Now, if you put rapid fire on that, it will be boosting all of these values, of course, but it is a fairly minimal adjustment with these. And I guess this is a good enough place to tag in velocity as well. And as you can see, the LR762 has the best bullet velocity at 920 meters per second, whereas the worst is actually the Frostline at just 800 meters per second. Now, at the end of the day, even at 800 meters per second, this is a solid enough bullet velocity, and we can see our Hitscan ranges there as well. So most gunfights, if you are playing at least somewhat aggressively with the sniper rifles, they're going to fall within the Hitscan range. But if you are trying to treat it like a proper sniper rifle and really hang back and pick people off at really long ranges, then you may want to consider boosting your bullet velocity value. As for hipfire, there's not much to say here. Generally speaking, you shouldn't be hipfiring with sniper rifles unless you're literally point blank. But with the Frostline, the SVD, and the LR762, these are all the same, with a minimum spread of 10 degrees and a maximum spread of 18 degrees, whereas the AMR Mod 4 is actually a little bit better than all of those. Now, another really important value to consider here is flinch. Unlike assault rifles and SMGs where flinch is fairly minimal, flinch on sniper rifles can make or break the gun. And as you can see here, by default, we see way more flinch with a sniper rifle compared to other guns. And once again, the Frostline, SVD, and LR762 are all the same here, and they're the worst when it comes to flinch, and the AMR Mod 4 is still pretty bad, but just slightly better than the rest. Next, let's talk about idle sway. Since this is quite important, especially with sniper rifles, this is how much your sight is going to be swaying around and moving when you're not holding your breath while aiming down sights. And the first value to consider is the idle sway delay, which is 2.2 seconds for all of the sniper rifles. And that means for the first 2.2 seconds after you aim down sight, there's no idle sway. You're going to be dead center on your screen Whereas after that delay, this is where the idle sway amount will kick in, and the higher the number, the more sway you're going to experience. So the LR762 is by far the worst out of the sniper rifles, whereas the SVD and AMR Mod 9 are the best in this area, and then the Frostline is just somewhere in the middle. Now after that, I did want to take a quick look at a recoil comparison just with the semi-auto sniper rifles, so you can see how they stack up if you're spamming at the maximum fire rate. And as we can see, the SVD has significantly more recoil when it comes to both vertical recoil as well as horizontal recoil, and there's also a lot of randomness mixed in there as well. Whereas with the AMR, it's actually got very little recoil. It kicks almost straight upward with just a little bit of a lean to the left, and it recenters fairly nicely between shots. So if you are firing it in this way, there's going to be less adjustment necessary between shots. Now the next thing I want to look at here is just our default optics and how they stack up against each other. I'm going to put them all side by side. And as you can see, the SVD's optic actually zooms in the most, followed by the AMR Mod 9 and the Frostline. Those are the same when it comes to our zoom level. And then finally, the LR762 zooms in the least. After that, let's get into our handling stats. And one of the most important stats with the sniper rifle, in Call of Duty at least, is our aim down sight time. And as you can see, the Frostline has the best base aim down sight time at 535 milliseconds, whereas the worst is going to be the AMR at 625 milliseconds. Additionally, we can have a look at sprint out times, but unless you're hip firing, sprint out is literally just irrelevant on these guns because it's always going to take you longer to aim down sight than it will to even come out of a tactical sprint. So those are the values there. Again, unless you're hip firing, you don't even really need to pay attention to those. And then another key stat to be aware of here is our swap time. How long does it take to swap to a 9mm PM? That's just the gun I used as a baseline for my testing. And the fastest are going to be the LW3 and the SVD at 650 milliseconds, whereas the slowest is the AMR at 775 milliseconds. Now after that, let's have a look at our reload times. And I'm also going to show you guys all of the magazine attachments and how they impact the magazine capacity as well as our reload times, but I'm not going to talk through every single one of those. If you want the details, they're there for you. You can pause the video and see that for yourself. But when it comes to our base reload time, the LR762 is the fastest at 1.83 seconds. Whereas once again, the AMR Mod 4 is the slowest here at 2.62 seconds. We're seeing a very common trend there. Anything relating to handling, the AMR Mod 4 tends to be the slowest. And then finally, for the important base stats of the sniper rifles, let's have a look at our movement speeds. And when it comes to our base movement speeds, the SVD is the fastest at 4.7 meters per second, whereas the slowest is going to be the LR762 and the AMR. With sprint speeds, they're all the same aside from the SVD. The SVD is just a little bit better than the rest at 6.4 meters per second. Same story with our tactical sprint speeds. The SVD is just slightly better than the rest at 7.7 meters per second. And then finally, when it comes to aim walking speed, it's very slow for all of the sniper rifles, and they're all identical at just 1.9 meters per second. Essentially, what this means is strafing in a gunfight is not going to be viable with sniper rifles, at least without attachments. And with that out of the way, it's time to move into some excellent attachment combinations. And I'm going to start this off with some universal attachment combinations that I like, regardless of the sniper rifle I'm using. These are just excellent combos to use to get a nice balance of stats. And the first one is my aggressive setup. So with this one, we're using the lightweight pad or handguard. It depends on the sniper rifle. Some of the names may vary a little bit, but the attachments themselves do effectively the same things. But that lightweight pad cuts down really nicely on our idle sway, which is great. So you don't have to hold your breath in most situations in my experience. We also have quick draw on there, which gives us the best possible aim down sight speed improvement. I've got the heavy stock on there to really cut down on our flinch as much as possible, since flinch is a big deal with sniper rifles. We're also using the Strelic laser, which I have covered in great detail in the past, but essentially with this attachment, the moment you start aiming down sight, it brings you into near full accuracy before you actually get your scope up. And this allows you to quickscope very effectively. You can actually fire before you're fully aimed down sight, and you can still be quite accurate on target, at least within like close to mid ranges. And this is an aggressive build, so that's why the Strelic laser is so great for that. And then finally, we're topping it off with rapid fire just to improve our rate of fire across the board for these. And you can see all of the unique stats for each of these sniper rifles and how these attachments will change that. That's an excellent universal build if you're trying to be aggressive. However, I do have a very slight variant of this that is my balanced stealth build, and the only difference here is I took off the Strelic laser and instead I put the suppressor on there. And so we can no longer fire before we're fully aimed down sight and still be accurate, but this allows us to stay off the radar, which can also help if you're being a bit more on the aggressive side. Maybe you want to try to flank enemy players while sniping. This build will allow you to do that. So for the map sizes for 6v6 at least, I find those two builds to be excellent universal builds. However, I did want to share some individual builds as well, just to give you some other ideas. And we're going to start this off with my Frostline long range build. With this one, we're using the gain twist barrel for a bullet velocity boost, the lightweight pad once again for that idle sway improvement, the Commando Riser to help with our aim down sight speed, and it also helps with our sprint out speed a little bit, but this is primarily to help with that aim down sight speed without hurting our flinch resistance, which the Quick Draw Riser will do. So this just helps us stay on target if the enemy returns fire and get some hits on us. And when we combine that with the heavy stock, we get the best possible flinch resistance at just 0.4 newtons with this, which is excellent. And then finally, we're topping this off with rapid fire once again. And this gives us a nice balanced build that's designed a bit more for the longer range fights, but it can still kind of hold its own up close, just not quite as effectively as the previous universal builds I shared. Next up for the SVD, I wanted to share my iron sight build. This gun is excellent with iron sights. So obviously that's our first attachment on there. Then we also have the Quick Draw Riser to help with our aim down sight speed as much as possible. And we get a really nice aim down sight speed at 451 milliseconds. We once again have the heavy stock on there just to cut down on that flinch as much as possible because that absolutely impacts gunfights. We also have the Strelic laser here, so we can fire before getting fully aimed down sight if we need to. This is a very highly aggressive sniping build. And then finally, we're topping this off once again with rapid fire, so we get that follow-up shot off a little bit faster. As for my unique LR762 build, this is actually really similar to the Frostline build I shared. This is for longer ranges. So we have the Gain Twist Barrel for velocity, the Lightweight Handguard for idle sway, the Commando Grip for aim down sight speed, the Heavy Stock for flinch resistance, and Rapid Fire to improve our rate of fire. So essentially just the same attachments as that Frostline build, but they're the same attachments for a good reason. They're the ones that just work well for this style of a build. And then finally, for the AMR, I wanted to share a gunfighter build with a red dot sight. I actually quite like using it in this way since I don't really like the iron sights that are available for this. So I go with the Kepler Microflex instead. We have the suppressor to stay off the radar, the heavy riser, the Strelic laser, and rapid fire. And this is just an excellent aggressive build if you want to treat this almost like a one-shot kill marksman rifle, I would say. However, it does require you to use that gunfighter wildcard. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up today's gun guide on all of the sniper rifles in Black Ops 6. When it comes to my thoughts on which one of these is best, well, personally, I actually like the SVD more than anything at the moment, because within the pacing and the map sizes that you tend to find in 6v6, the SVD just excels, especially after the buffs, where you're not going to see hit markers very often with this, as long as you're keeping yourself within 50 meters, which is very easy to do. You get that really quick follow-up shot since it has the fastest rate of fire, and you can get some really nice handling stats on it as well with the right attachments. So that's absolutely my go-to at the moment, and it is my favorite one overall. Now, of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the sniper rifles in those comments down below. Like, what is your favorite one to use? And if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I've now covered every single primary weapon in the game. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.